Right, and I guess you have seen the newspapers already. The front pages are exciting this morning. The upcoming 2018 budget gets some ink on the Ghanaian Times. Government is being asked to adopt aggressive tax policy to sustain and consolidate economic gains. The work of the Special Prosecutor and the Auditor General is captured on the BNFT, New Dawn in Fight Against Corruption. Payroll audit begins next week. Special Prosecutor, Auditor General to collaborate. That's the Daily Graphic. And the Times put it, SPAG strike deal to combat crime. That story also gets some ink on the Finder and other newspapers. Now, my guest this morning to do the talking, the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the NDC, Mr. Adekoka, is here. Good morning.
Good morning,
Hope you're doing great.
By his grace.
We're grateful for your time with us. And I also have the government spokesperson on energy and a member of the NPP's team, Nana Kofi Tamwa. Good morning too.
Thank you.
Grateful for your time with us. Let's start this conversation this way. The Auditor General and the Special Prosecutor are collaborating in what they call a payroll audit. We're told by the Daily Graphic that the Auditor General's Department and the Office of the Special Prosecutor are collaborating to audit the payroll of the entire public service. The issue of ghost names has bedeviled the government's payroll for years, in spite of the frequent cleansing of the payroll through the deletion of thousands of ghost names. So this time round, it's going to be different according to the Auditor General. At a press conference in Accra, Mr. Domelevo urged all heads of department to cooperate with the audit by providing all documents required for the exercise. Now, those who are not entitled to earn but are earning on the payroll will be handed over to the Special Prosecutor for prosecution. If you think your name has been inserted on the payroll wrongly, you can purge yourself by quickly refunding that money to the government. That's according to the Auditor General. He again warned that heads of departments would be held accountable for ghost names on their payrolls. He accordingly urged them to do the needful by cleansing their payrolls and refunding the money wrongfully paid to the government chest if they did not want to be caught in the web. The Special Prosecutor, who made an input there, also urged the department to notify the Office of the Special Prosecutor before annual audit reports were completed so that the office could investigate. And like he said, his job as a Special Prosecutor was to prevent, investigate, prosecute, recover assets and process of corruption and corruption-related issues, for which reason there was no need for him to wait for complaints before investigating corruption-related issues. So that's a story also captured by the BNFT and the Ghanaian Times. And now let me start this conversation with you. Perhaps this is something that we've been waiting for a very long time, trying to tackle corruption. This certainly is commendable.
Most definitely. Let me say good morning to you and to your listeners as well, to your viewers. It's one of the most commendable things that have happened, and I'm happy that this is happening under the government of His Excellency, the President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. What you can see is that you have a very activist Auditor General who is beginning to ensure that the frontiers of his work are expanded to, as much as possible, try and occupy the full extent of the powers that have been granted him under his enabling act. That is something that we must all commend. Ever since the appointment of Mr. Domelevo, we've seen quite a number of very significant changes occurring at the Auditor General's office, and that is key. What we also have is the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which, as you all know, was a promise that was made by the New Patriotic Party, and we have actually taken action on it and given it meaning. And so now you're seeing two state agencies collaborating effectively to ensure that corruption, at least in the public sector as regards payroll, is dealt with. I hope that other anti-graft agencies will begin to step up their doings, and let us see more of such collaboration, so that all in all, if everybody does his little bit according to the powers that are given him, we can all effectively reduce the nuisance of corruption and ensure that the resources of state that we have, that we so much struggle to put together, are put to effective use for the benefit of all the people of the Republic of Ghana. In these two men, we have persons that most of the people in Ghana regard as persons of high integrity, and we hope that even as they have set the vision clearly, the men that work in their offices, the men that are supposed to support them, would also adapt that integrity and ensure that we are able to achieve the results which we seek.
I see. Mr. Dekoka, so in fighting corruption, perhaps we're beginning right when we start from here, where the evidence is already there, so that we can begin to get these persons to be held accountable for what they do.
But let me say good morning to yourself and my brother here, and all NDC functionaries this morning who have been given life to live, and also especially the founder and President John Mahama. I wish them a good morning today. Well, right, this payroll saga, let me say payroll saga, has been with us for a very long time. Every government that has come has made the effort of trying to cleanse the system. Why do we get people having their names twice, 3 times on the system? It means there's a system failure. That is where we should first look at the system. If you are employed and you are transferred, or you leave your employment, what should the system do? Has somebody been employed at where the payroll data is, to ensure that once the person has left the employment, once the person has been employed, his or her name is properly deleted or inserted? This is the question. It seems that the system, all this boils down to system failure. I mean, if the systems are working, you don't need a special prosecutor or the Auditor General to come in. We've heard these stories severally. I mean, the last time we were told that payments were going to be through electronic system, you know, a few months ago, a few years ago, a month ago, there was an internal audit where every public sector worker was asked to bring the passport and go and do biometric, you know. So are we going back, or we take two steps forward, or one step forward and then 2 steps backwards? You know, this has been with us for a very long time. So to me, I don't think it's anything new. I don't think it's anything that we should hanker about, because it's been with us so many years. So until the system is sanitized, that people are alive to their job, those who do the employment, those who are the accountant general, those who are in the various departments. You know that Brett has been employed. Brett is given an employment letter. He has to go in the system. Brett has been transferred. When he's being transferred, where does the letter go? When he's leaving his employment, the letter are discharging him. Who gets the copy to act? Right? Delete his exactly. So it's the system failure. The system that we are having over the years, we've been complaining, it's not working. And so we every morning we have these huge headlines, and when you start reading it, you end up by tomorrow this will go to the back burner. Another thing will happen, we don't know what. And this is what we do to ourselves every day. We stand at the rooftop and shout. And at the end of the day, nothing. This is not the first time that you've heard that.
I remember something of that nature.
Exactly.
But the special prosecutor and the Auditor General come together and issue these warnings. You think that is not?
Do you need to? I'm sure every department knows the number of people who are working there, right? And if there's excess payment, the accounts department, don't they prepare vouchers before payment is done? Don't they? Somebody, so if the voucher is supposed to be 10, and then it starts from the person who initiated it, not the person that you are paying, the person that is taking the double salary. He didn't go and insert his name in the payroll. Somebody did that. So those people, where are they? You must identify them first, the source of all these double or triple payments, and then we deal with it, because it's a human being who inserted that thing. It's not bright. Can you in your office here go and insert triple names of you in your no? So that we don't look at the source of the problem, and we want to heal the problem, and it will start again because the source has not been eradicated. So this is what we have to do. Who are in bed with whoever that does the inputs, and this is the kind.
Okay, so in this case, the Auditor General says they are going in there and also take a look at who is a worker, who is not. So that your suggestion is that even when the ghost names are deleted, if the system proper is not rectified, we'll still find
exactly how many ghost names have been eradicated in the so many years that has gone by, and it's still there. Sometimes you hear that somebody who has died 50 years ago, his salary is still being paid. Haven't you heard those kind of stories? So who in that department is still sending the voucher for payment?
So Mr. Koka thinks that, well, this is good, but the system is where the problem is. I mean, if you just go and delete the names and leave the system as it is, we'll go back to more ghost names. And of course, ghost names are not anything new. I remember even when the finance minister came in, there were issues of some ghost names who were told were later found not to be ghosts. So he thinks that the system is what we have to check.
And I agree with him, and I think that it is for this purpose that the NPP government, being as visionary as it is, has always gone.
Why do you always start your premise in visionary? Don't go there. Let's look at the source. Let's look at the issue.
If credit was not if credit was not important, if credit was not important, appointees of SWA President John Mahama would not be all over the place saying that he must be given some credit for the projects that he even didn't as little as secure funding for. But what I'm trying to say is that it is because of an understanding of these systematic issues. That is why the NPP government, first of all, under His Excellency former President John Ajay Kumkufu, I tried to establish the National Identification Authority and the systems around it. If you have such systems in place, then you can adequately track and know who is on the payroll, who is not, and use such a database to do all of these extractions. As it is now, you have a purely paper-based system that allows for all of these elements of fraud to go on. It's been going on for years, and until we change such a system, we are going to continue to see these things taking place. And it's a fact. That is why, under this current president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the National Identification Authority and the Ghana card issues are being pushed vigorously. You can also understand why the Ghana Post GPS system is also being pushed vigorously. You can understand why we are bringing all of these interventions in place. What is critical for most people to understand is that you cannot establish such a system in a single day. There are various parts of it and there are moving cycles. We have launched the Ghana Post GPS app. We are gathering data on that. We are now moving on to the Ghana card, trying to get as many people as possible to enroll on it. And bit by bit, as the various parts of it are put in place, one day you wake up to realize that all of a sudden, we have a mechanism that is good enough to ensure that ghost names can be cleared off, and not only cleared off the payroll of government, but also kept off the payroll of government. It is unfortunate, therefore, that our friends in the NDC, particularly in the minority, do not see the vision that has been laid out, and so are complaining about some of the mechanisms that are being employed to ensure that we are able to have such a clean system that will save Ghana millions and millions of Ghana cedis moving forward. But we hope that as the conversation goes on and as the dialogue continues, they will come to realize that there are specific reasons why things are being done the way they are. It is always very difficult to imagine how the end of a building is going to be when you have nothing but just one block on the ground. But what we are saying and what we want to give assurances to the people of Ghana on is that we know exactly what we are doing. We came to them and asked them for their vote. We came to them and asked them to give us that job. They've given it to us, and we will do it to the best of our ability to ensure that problems such as this, which Mr. Adekoka and myself agree on, that has been a long-standing problem, will be eliminated and eliminated forever.
Okay, let me move on to the Ghanaian Times this morning. On page 17, upcoming 2018 budget review, adopt aggressive tax policies to sustain and consolidate economic gains. Now, government must introduce innovative tax and revenue strategies in the media budget to review to shore up its revenue. That's according to a senior lecturer at the Economics Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Eric Osesibe. Now, in an interview with the Ghanaian Times yesterday, he said the development of the country is a dual responsibility of government and the citizenry. To this end, he's made some recommendations that in the 2018 budget review, he says, for instance, government need to increase the value-added tax, VAT, to 18.5. He also says that revenue collection and improve environmental conservation through improved sanitation by taxing plastics, putting a tax on plastics. These are some of the taxes he is suggesting in the budget review. And if you take a look at page 20 of the same paper, another economist is also suggesting that indeed government must also increase taxes in the budget review. So the expectations are that in the 2018 budget review we'll see a lot of taxes, and the signals seem clear. Mr. Adekoka, let me start this conversation with you. This government said that it was going to shift away from taxation, yes, increase production, and through that generate revenue. Now, there are calls on the government to increase taxation in order to support the gains that has been made so far. What kind of opposition do you expect government to receive when the 2018 media budget is review budget is read? Brett,
you just started asking the questions that you have asked. Listen, this is a government who told us that the NDC hasn't got any policy on economic on the nation's economy, but only taxing. Everywhere, everything we do. Remember, at a certain stage, we tax even cutlasses, and it has to be removed because they said we should find innovative ways of raising revenue rather than taxing. Here we are. And they fought the election on the premise that when they come, the first that they're going to cut all the taxes that they think they are nuisance tax and God knows what.
Some have been done.
Which ones have been done?
There are several taxes.
I don't know. Tell me.
Oh, okay.
The taxes that they promised that they were going to knock. When you go to Abusokai, they promised them to reduce the taxes there. Go and ask the people of Abusokai whether it's been done. And now the economists are saying the government, you see, this is something that you throw into the system because that is what government wants to do. So if government wants to do, he will get somebody somewhere, like the economist speaking, to throw that into the system so that me and you will come and debate it, and government will say, well, this is what we should do. And then so this is a ruse. Government knows that his revenue targets has not been met. And you cannot squeeze water from stone. Where you have a situation where there's mass unemployment, because if people are in gainful employment, the revenue or the tax net will be widened. What you need to do is to widen the tax net, but not to add more burden onto the people. Now, if you go to the ports, go and look at on the high seas, you've seen all these ships just stuck there because people are not able to clear the goods that they have because of the taxes that have been imposed on them, and they keep on crying. So if in the midterm you are going to add more taxes to what is already there, then I'm telling you, me and you and everybody, we are dead. Because this is a government who says they are coming to reduce taxes. So for me, this is neither here nor there. It is something that they promised that they were going to do, and they cannot come back to us this day and tell us that they are going to increase taxes and have people telling them to do that. Look, it is the system now as we are. People are suffering. The burden is too high to carry. So to go and add more taxes, I'm sure the people of this country will not accept.
I see. Let me ask Nana. So government is seeking to raise about 2.9 billion cedis through, we're told, new taxes. How is government going to convince the people on the back that it told us earlier that production was what it will focus on to generate revenue?
Okay, so I think that there's a lot of confusion, based on what I've heard from Mr. Adekoka, and we need to first of all clear those things up and make people understand exactly what the matter is. The imposition of taxes that this government spoke of when it was in opposition was about what we called nuisance taxes, and these were clear.
Right.
Very clear. Now, there are certain types. Taxes are used for a variety of means. First of all, to raise revenue, but also, to determine behaviors of individuals and the country in trying to encourage either some behavior or discourage some other behaviors as well. So, for example, when it comes to alcoholic consumption of alcoholic drinks, governments sometimes do impose prohibitive taxes on it to make it quite a little bit more expensive, so that more and more people, reduce the consumption of alcoholic materials, so that the health of the nation in general is protected. Now, when you have a government imposing taxes on cutlasses, which, bear in mind, most of our farmers are that small and they rely on cutlasses and things like that to produce their goods, then what you are doing is you are making it a bit more expensive for them to be able to buy these inputs to go and farm. If we impose taxes on agricultural inputs, among others, what you are doing is you are prohibiting them. You are making it more expensive. What it would therefore do is that it would run off into inflationary trends, because the farmer would then pass on that cost in the food materials that we buy on the market. Invariably, it will increase everything across board. These were the things we branded as nuisance taxes. Again, I hear Mr. Adekoka when he says that people are crying in this country, things are difficult. If that is so, then it is a blessing that this government came into power, because under your government, so many taxes, more than 15 of them, which were imposed by your government, have been taken off. Come to the energy sector. I can tell you for a fact that, for example, excise taxes on petroleum products were taken off. We've also done a lot more in terms of reducing the special petroleum tax and others. So if today, as it stands, your argument is that the people of Ghana are suffering because of taxation, then it's a blessing that this NPP government is in place, because your government was imposing way more higher taxes than what exists today. What the current proposal is that, listen, for the last 1.5 years, we've been able to make some changes and take away some nuisance taxes. Bear in mind also that no new tax has been imposed. New taxes have not been imposed since this government came to power. If anything at all, rates of taxation have been reduced. Now, we've managed to translate that into a GDP growth that is more than twice what we saw.
So the tax reduction has impacted on what we do.
Well, I would leave that for the economists to deal with, because you see, once you begin to do that, then we get into so many areas. But what I'll say is that these taxes were reduced, some were taken out, some were scrapped totally. At the end of 2017, what the figures are telling us is that we more than doubled the growth rate that was achieved in 2016.
But it hit government revenue.
It did hit government revenue, but
and the impact wasn't felt.
Even with the lower taxes, which did hit government revenue, we managed to achieve a higher level of GDP growth. Now, that is a very significant achievement that we must all hail. The challenge now is we must be able to maintain or even go above that level of GDP growth, because bear in mind that GDP growth means that the economy is expanding, which means invariably, if we structure it very well, more jobs are being created and prosperity is being created. So to be able to maintain that, we are saying that yes, there are significant shortfalls in government revenue. So we must sit and find ways and means to collect more monies to ensure that national development, at the rate at which it is going, is maintained. We are yet to see what kind of proposals will come out from these deliberations. What is critical, however, is that a lot of people in this country today believe that yes, government must do something about revenue. And a lot of the conversation has been coming from the people themselves, encouraging government to take a step and find out how to collect more taxes from the people for national development. That for me is a very significant thing that we must all learn to accept. I hear Mr. Adekoka once again when he goes along the normal trend of the NDC, which is leading us down a path of speculation, to say that government has engineered all of these people to come and throw these things out for a discussion to be created. I'm sorry, but
is it not a communication strategy?
Well, I am yet to hear of any communication strategy like that. Okay. But again, to say that also is to insult the intelligence of such men who have built themselves and their reputation over the years. Because what you are setting then is that they are nothing but puppets in the hands of government who are not capable of independent thinking, but can only be manipulated by government to stay in national discussions. In any case, even if that is the case, that they are being manipulated, the discussions we are having this morning, in which we are all accepting that government revenues need to be looked at again, how is that hurtful to our national development?
Mr. Adekoka, I'll come to you, but would you be able to convince someone who believed when you said that we'll cut taxes and use production to generate revenue? If you're going to go back to taxes, how would you convince that person?
Okay, so we said we're going to cut nuisance taxes.
You said taxes.
You said taxes, yes. Have we cut the taxes?
Well, some taxes have been cut.
Okay, so what we did, what we promised, we have done. That's a clear thing.
Okay.
Now we are saying that, listen, there are some shortfalls that we need to find a way to engineer. I think it all depends on the proposal that will come forward. And believe you me, it is not a matter of the people of Ghana are stuck, they don't want to pay taxes. And so no matter what it is, no matter how obvious it is, the people of Ghana do not want to pay taxes. And unlike Mr. Adekoka and myself, not everybody is that political to the extent that they want to view everything within political lenses. There are people out there who clearly can see that this government is trying its best to ensure that Ghana is developed to the level that we promised, and are willing to give the government that slack and have us engage in conversations like this. What I am hoping for is a national discussion and a national consensus along, okay, clearly we need to do some things. How do we do it? What is the best method of doing it? And I must congratulate the professor, forgetting his name again, for starting. Thank you for starting these discussions. What is obvious, what we are beginning to see, is that they have made their proposals. I would have been very happy to hear the NDC also come out and say, no, we do not agree with that. And based on our social mentality, we think that if taxes are going to be imposed, these taxes must be imposed in area A, B, and C. But the submission I have heard this morning, if I'm to be honest, is just a political thing. That does nothing to address the fundamental problem that we are talking about.
I see. I'll come back to you. Mr. Adekoka, so that's the explanation. Government needs revenue. Some taxes are being cut. And so we're hit, but we need to go back and so let's bring in more taxes.
Right. My brother tells the government has reduced tax on petroleum. What's the price of gasoline today? They've reduced taxes. What's the price of gasoline today?
It's not gone down.
It's not gone down.
It's not
so the tax that you took off, what impacts? Please, when you're talking, don't tell me simplistic. When we're talking, making all those propaganda going about GDP expansion, go to the street and go and ask those who are whether they eat GDP. They don't eat GDP. They don't eat GDP. They buy petrol just like you buy petrol. With all the taxes that you said you have reduced, go to Abosokan. Actually, admit I buy petrol. Go to Abosokan and go and ask them whether any tax. Go and ask other Ghanaian whether the taxes that you have reduced has made any impact on their lives. That's what we are talking about. And now you are telling me that Ghanaians will be happy for you to impose more taxes on them. Where people, your revenue, you can rake in a lot of revenue. If people are in employment, if the government is working, in the sense that government is the largest employer in a third world country. There's no infrastructure taking place in this country. And do you know the effect of if there's infrastructure development in this country? Right, the multiplier effect. You have the cocoa seller going there, the mason, the carpenter, and all these people will be taxed, and your revenue should go up. You understand? So when nothing is happening, and you want to squeeze water from stone, you cannot come and tell me that your GDP has gone up 8% or whatever it is, and people in the street are struggling. We work on the street. We go to among the people. I do work by virtue of being a politician. I work. Only yesterday I was in one of the constituencies, right? So what you are saying is that you made certain promises, and now the promises that you made, you cannot keep them, and now you are going to add more burden. And these people of this country are not in a mood for you to come and impose more tax. Why are you going to? You are going to increase VAT to. You remember when we first brought VAT, they went on demonstration and said no. Today they asked you to increase VAT to 18.5%, and you are talking about what beverages and how many people. You can afford to drink whiskey. You are talking about the ordinary man on the street who cannot afford to buy even a dingo bitters.
I don't think
that's what I'm talking. Whether you don't take, what you are talking about is for a dingo bitters. They can't even buy a dingo bitters. Whatever you call it, whatever you call it. You understand? So let's be serious. I mean, my brother, where we are going, where the government is going now. You have to, like you said, you have to sit down and have a serious discourse about how the way forward and stop this propaganda that you want to tell us or tout GDP and those kind of things. The people out there are crying, no jobs, and you came and said that within a certain period of time you are going to do one district, one factory. All those things you have not been able to do it. You keep telling us that you've got plans that has been vetted, and that's what all that you come to tell us. Nothing is happening. So please, we must go back and think again. And next time when you are in opposition, find yourself in opposition, don't come and promise the people of this country the moon, and then when you come, you want to give them the sun.
Let's take a look at this. But If before you go, is it for instance, in convincing the public about new tax proposals, should government give us a thorough understanding of where the attempt at industrialization has got into, so that the Ghanaian will understand that this is where we are before we become industrialized, so that we can generate revenue? We need to support government with taxes, because Dr. Sibe is suggesting that raising revenue has become a dual responsibility: citizenry, government. Now, if we are told that this is where the industrialization process has got into, but before we hit the roof, we must support with taxes, then perhaps we'll be able to understand.
So, as you're saying, it has to do with the communication of how it is done and how it is achieved. And I would want to wait for the finance minister to go to parliament, because bear in mind the fact that he's not just going there to go and make proposals for tax changes.
Right.
He's actually supposed to give a mid-year review of our economic situation at the moment, so that based on that, then we can have, some facts to deal with the matters as you are proposing. But I repeat what I just said, and I'm amazed at the submission that I had, because you see, it goes to confirm what I just said earlier, that today I've heard Mr. Adekoka refer to taxes as burden. If that is the case, then the burden of the people of Ghana has been reduced. That's the first one. The second thing is that, listen, if indeed you are saying that despite the reduction of taxes on petroleum products, the prices of petroleum products have gone high, then indeed the people of Ghana are grateful to this government. Why? When you were in power, petroleum prices were generally, prices of petroleum products were generally ranging around the $30 to $40 mark. Today, where are we? We've gone as high as $70. Has the prices of petroleum products in this country doubled? No, it hasn't. So some measures have been deployed to ensure that it has been held back, despite the significant rises that have come. So if you refer to taxes as burdens, and you are saying that it is deceit, it can only be through a very biased political lens that you say this. Because if not, let's bring back the excise taxes that have been taken off, and also go back to the original 17.5% on the special petroleum tax, and we'll see where petroleum prices will be in Ghana today. So all we are saying is that this government has shown clearly, in line with the promises it made, that it has redeemed those promises as regards to taxes. We went and looked at the taxes that were inhibiting production We've taken them off. And we've come back to look at the math. We've come back and allowed it to move. Bear in mind also the fact that we're having all of this discussion against a backdrop of reduction in electricity tariffs. Significant reduction in electricity tariffs. There are challenges here and there, but we are going ahead, first of all, to deal with the tariffs.
What challenges are there?
Some reports have been received, and significantly so, that the amount of reduction that was given is not being carried out thoroughly by the ECG. We've tasked the PURC to deal with it, and the PURC has also gone ahead to conduct its investigation, and we're continuing to work with the PURC to ensure that the people of Ghana face the full benefit or get the full benefit of these things. With all of these things having been put in place, we believe that we have created quite a little bit of space. However, we need to consolidate those gains as we attempt to move forward into a higher space of economic development. How do we do that? It is that conversation that the finance minister is going to go to Parliament and spark. And I'll be very happy, again, let me say, that we move beyond our narrow political lenses and begin to look at the issues as they've been laid on the table for us to look at. Because, look, whatever be the case, it is clear that under NDC and as compared to the current NPP, rates of taxation are significantly lower than what it used to be. If today you say that the people of Ghana are undergoing hardship, then this government being in place at this time is a blessing. Because your government took things through the roof. And we must acknowledge those things so that the people of Ghana will begin to give more credibility to us as politicians.
I'm grateful. Bright, it's very interesting. Very, very interesting when you hear my brother speaking and telling me that they've painted or put the country on the pedestal of paradise.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's not what I'm saying.
You sit here, you are tickling yourself.
That's not what I said. So let's get it right.
Well, that's the impression I'm getting. Well, that the people out there, like I said, the people out there, they know the truth.
That's why I'm mentioning narrow bias political lenses.
There's no narrow bias. That's what I'm saying. Your narrow bias evidence that you are talking about implies that you've got utopia. Your government is providing milk and honey for the people. They just have to go and turn the pipe on, and then the milk and honey will be flowing.
I never said
this
that.
country at this particular moment in time. Go out there. We are talking about the ordinary man on the street. You are touting of reducing taxes, and I'm saying, what impact those taxes that you reduce? What impact has it made on the people out there? And then you are coming back to add more. You reduce something, it should have made an impact, right? So that you reduce it more, so that the impact will be bigger. Now you are telling me that you've reduced taxes, the impact is there, but now you want to rake back that impact that your taxes has created. That's what you are telling me, because you have reduced the taxes and now you want to break another level of taxation. So what have you achieved? Did you go or did you come? I thought by reducing the first system, the next stage you are also going to reduce it further to touch your credence. But now you say no, let us add more, rake in more revenue. So what you've given the people, you are going to take it back from them. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. You are just tickling yourself, and you have done nothing. For the past 2 years that you are in government, you've done that. There's no development going on.
For 2 years?
1.5 years or so. There's no development going on. Government is the biggest employer in this country. Contractors have not been paid. If you reduce your taxes, contractors are threatening to go on strike. Look, so don't come and sit here and tickle yourself, please.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at what the time has on the chairman of the NPP, Freddie Blay. Stay right here. All right, I'm grateful for you staying there. Let's wrap up on this one. Mr. Blay has reacted to concerns about the 275 buses. The Times has a story. He says that I didn't single-handedly fund the buses. It is not me sitting here buying it. I'm doing it for the party as chairman with others. I informed the party officially about my decision to buy the buses. I informed the steering committee. I told them at a meeting, and the party was neither guaranteeing nor paying for the buses. It is amazing that people will suggest that it is vote buying, and it's very foolish for people to ask that, since the process to procure the buses started long before the conference. So it cannot be to influence the delegates to vote for me. That arrangement was started 11 months ago. He had issues with the president of the National House of Chiefs, Togbe Afede. He suggested that he was wrong to suggest that the buses portrayed perception of vote buying. Maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about. The recent buses are not the only one. I have extended support to the party. Before then, I arranged 200 motorbikes for the regions and 2 or 3 pickups for each region. So that's Mr. Freddie Blay's reaction to the concerns raised by the public. Nana, let me start the conversation with you. Should this conversation about these buses, should it end this way, with a reaction from Mr. Blay?
I think that how this discussion has been framed in our public space is very, very unfortunate. I think also that we must begin to attempt, first of all, to understand what it is before we go into a discussion of what it has caused. What is it that Mr. Freddie Blay was trying to do? First of all, in our body politic, we've very often had discussions about whether the state should help fund political parties or not, because we understand the fact that funding of political parties does create a lot of room for corruption. How is this so? At the constituency level, and I mean, I know that Mr. Adekoka is a politician, and if you'll be honest, he would admit to it that, listen, various interest groups seek to fund political parties so that their private agenda will be executed after they have, helped these political parties at various levels within its organization and structure. What Mr. Freddie Blay has sought to do is to ensure that some level of autonomy is given at the constituency level, to ensure that influence that is peddled by private interest is at least reduced, if not eliminated. How is he doing that? Let's be able to give them a means of earning revenue. So these buses have been procured, they've been put out there, they're supposed to work with it and pay back those monies. And whilst this is going on, at the constituency level, the revenues coming from the use of these buses can also be put to ensure that the running of the party at that level, at least, they have some basic financing, which together with party dues and others would create a certain sense of self-sufficiency. That is what this whole thing is about. The strongest benefit you can see is that there's a very sincere attempt to eliminate that dependency on private sources of funding, which in turn may influence politicians or even party executives to do that which is not right. On that basis, it must be applauded.
I think that is considered. There's nothing
wrong. So he was trying to do a good thing. What has now become the issue is how it was done.
And the timing.
And the timing of it. Anybody that raises an issue of the timing, I think, is a very serious issue that we must all look at. Because you see, Mr. Freddie Blay, I do not believe, was trying to buy votes. However, perception is everything. And some persons believe that the timing at which all of this was done may lead to vote buying. And so we should look at it, we should investigate it, we should look at the perception of the Ghanaian society on it, and perhaps even as a political party or maybe as a nation, come out with rules and regulations as to how these things should be done, so as not to even create that perception that vote buying is being undertaken. The other issue has got to do with the funding or the financing of this project. Some persons have sought to suggest that Mr. Freddie Blay could not have, in his personal capacity, raised the funding required for this 275 buses. I think that those that do that are being unfair to Mr. Freddie Blay. He's a businessman of a very long-standing, record. He's also a lawyer who has so many years experience at the bar and has a very well-doing law firm that is continuing to flourish in these current times. Is it that he took money and went to buy these buses? No. He made a down payment and asked the bank to help him in its capacity. If in doing that, he has put the liability on any state institution unfairly, definitely, of course, let us go ahead and investigate. And I'm very happy that, in Ghana, we have gotten to that point where we all acknowledge that for investigations to be carried out, there must be the establishment of a prima facie case. So if anybody at all has any evidence whatsoever that some wrongdoing has been done, then of course I would be the first person to support a call for the investigation or whatever of Mr. Freddie Blay for the activities that have gone on. However, what we have seen on the part of the minority, for instance, is nothing but acts of suspicion. And again, like I have said, speculation. He is a chairman of the board of GNPC. Notwithstanding what he has achieved in his private life, as a lawyer, as a businessman, as all others, just because he is a chairman of a board of directors for GNPC, some wrongdoing must have gone on. And so on that basis, the entire minority, at least through its spokesperson, is issuing a call and seeking to back it, that yes, we have no evidence whatsoever that wrongdoing has gone on, but he's a chairman of GNPC. So let's all speculate and go ahead and, on the basis of that speculation, institute an investigation. I'm not going to sit here and say that that should be done or not done, but I'm just saying and underlining the fact that all of these accusations of corruption are based on nothing but mere speculation. Moving forward, Mr. Freddie Blay has been honest. He's spoken to these matters. Mrs. Ameoku has also spoken to these matters. Unfortunately, when some of these discussions are held within the media space, sometimes what you find out is that various other interpretations other than what was being communicated is put on it. And so some persons tend to see contradictions where I don't think there is any. However, I am saying that we all need to acknowledge the fact that what he sought to do, first of all, was a very good thing that will at least contribute in ensuring that corruption is reduced, at least at that level of political party organization. And we must applaud him for that. The method and the timing, as we have identified here today, is a problem. And as a political party, the NPP needs to look at it and find ways and means of ensuring that we institute rules and regulations that do not lead us into these crises anytime in the future. I would also encourage other political parties, and perhaps even a relook at the political parties law, to ensure that these things are set in stone and we do not have these perceptions coming out of it again. To those calls that are, or to those who are calling for investigations and others, I'll be very happy that they lay evidence that, takes
based
it
on this.
Yes, takes it beyond reasonable that they are not just seeking to take political advantage of what exists as a speculation or a suspicion. If not, then let us be fair to ourselves and be fair to our integrity, and let us not introduce some, for lack of a better word, I'm struggling not to use the word baseless, methods that would ensure that, look, I can get up tomorrow and say, you are a host at TV3. I do not understand why you are wearing a suit. Just because you are a host at TV3, I don't understand why you should wear a suit, and so we should investigate you. You remember during the ANAS investigation, the ANAS investigation, for instance, one of the issues that came up from one of the members of our party was that ANAS, as a journalist, should not have some of the properties that he had. And I felt that that was a little bit unfair. And it is the same thing that today is being peddled. And I'm shocked by the minority in Parliament.
Mr. Adekokas, the man has reacted to it. Perhaps it answers the questions that are being asked?
No.
Mr. Blay's reaction?
No. And a big no. We politicians sometimes put ourselves in situations where the electorate looks at us and think there's some largesse somewhere that the moment you become a politician, you have the capability or the chances of getting. Mr. Blay, when he was acting national chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Prudential Bank was on their neck. At that moment of time, he didn't have the so-called financial engineering or the magic wand as an acting chairman to ensure that that money was paid.
Was a loan contracted by NPP.
I'm coming. I'm saying that
the facts.
I'm saying that the loan was contracted by the MPP.
Are you sure?
Or was contracted by who? An individual? Or
it's
what?
On record. It is on record.
That an individual contracted it. I am saying that.
If I may
please, let me finish.
If you want to clear who contracted it, I'll give you a chance to. Please go ahead.
I'm talking about the ingenuity of Mr. Blay as an acting chairman. Whether it was contracted by Kwame or Kwesi or whatever it is, he was in charge at the party. He was the leader of the party at that material moment of time. Just suppose it forward. 1.5 years along the line, this same gentleman has got the magic wand to be able to do what is said to have done. And when people are put into strict proof, what does he insults them? Foolish, nonsense, silly. A whole chief just say that we should investigate and say you shouldn't talk as if it's a palm wine tapper or whatever it is. The arrogance.
Is that what you said?
Oh, read it. Go and read it. The arrogance. You see what money can make. And we are saying there's something called humility and morality. That's what we are talking about.
Shouldn't the people provide the evidence that Kofi Nana Damoy is talking about?
You see, when you're in a certain position, right, and things like this happen, I'm not supposed to provide the evidence. You have to tell me how you did it. And people are claiming, people are saying that you said you put $3 million down. So people will ask for your balance sheet. Even when you balance sheet, you have to provide the balance sheet. This is what I did, and this is what I got my $3 million for.
But if I say you've done something, I need to prove that this is...
No, because we're in a position of trust.
Okay.
You're in a position of trust.
So he should
clear himself. You're in a position of that. Look, I said I've put $3 million down. This is my balance sheet. And that's it. But he gives you a balance sheet. You should say, come on, stop talking. The man is worth that. He's a billionaire. So he can afford to do what he said he's doing. You say he's a man, he's a businessman, he's a lawyer. So give us your balance sheet. You understand?
Well, I'm wondering if Mr. Blay will want to.
Well, exactly. So then we go the realm of speculation that you are the board chairman of a state institution.
And he's admitting speculation.
No. When I said, well, you retorted. No, you retorted to.
I just wanted to.
I'm coming. You retorted to. I said. Produce your balance, and you told me that Mr. Blay will not do that. And I'm then telling you that if failure for you to justify how you did it, you need people to start making comments that unsavory, and then they refer you exactly that you are a public officer, you are the head of a state institution who recently sold some what do you call it, oil blocks.
They didn't say oil blocks.
They tendered oil blocks or whatever. I saw in the papers. Whether so, let him tell us where he got his $3 million from. And that's what then we start speculating whether he sold oil blocks or he didn't sell oil blocks, whether GMPC took something. You understand? So that note,
then John he got the vehicle, money to buy those vehicles. That was distribution to the chiefs.
With vehicles.
My V8 Land Cruiser vehicles that were distributing to the chiefs.
Is that not why? I'm saying that was not why he was voted.
The chiefs, whatever V8 he bought for the chief, are public.
No, we are told that those were from his private.
Never. Yes. They came from the because the government has to make sure that the chiefs are resourced. How can Domama buy V8 from his private?
Well, then you deceive the entire nation in 2016 by telling us that
Domama buy V8 from public. The chiefs are supposed to be nationals of chiefs. How they exist depends on government. Government has to
it's a public
exactly it's a public institution. So then
the truth of the matter is
so please I'm on the floor. You started nicely. You were trying to say that
he considered that perhaps we need to take a look at the time of
I'm coming there. For all of us in the political arena, right, it is very important that we try as much as possible to avoid this situation, because it's making the politics of this country so expensive that generations yet unborn, when they are on the verge of practicing politics, it means that you must have tons and tons and tons and tons of money before, and that will not occur because somebody there who is what do you call it? Look, please. Well, Mama bought from his coffers. Which coffee? NDC. No, this is propaganda. Cash for me.
I am so grateful you joined us from wherever you are. Mr. Adekoka is a Greater Accra chairman of the NDC. Nana Kofi-Damwa speaks for Governmental and is a member of the MPP's team. Gentlemen, I'm grateful for your Thursday morning. Have a wonderful weekend. And for those of you watching, stay with us. There's more after this.